Greetings, fellow open-minded people. I'm glad you're here today. We're going to talk about oil and the economy surrounding oil and what the hell our future entails if we carry on this way. We're going to be discussing the cold, simple facts. We're not going to get into too much detail about the whole thing, otherwise we shall be here all day. But let's begin with, what is oil? What is it in? And how does it affect our lives? Oil is the reminiscence of a small portion of time in Earth's history where the conditions were just right to start producing this stuff from dead creatures, plants, anything organic was, kind of converted after death into this oil, and it's taken thousands of years to produce this stuff. So it was only a small time window within Earth's history that this stuff was made or produced, so to speak. I'm not sure that's the right word, but we're going to use it anyway. So it's a finite resource, meaning there's not much left of it, or there isn't an infinite supply of the stuff, and we will be running out at some point in the future. Oil affects us daily. It is in practically everything we use on a daily basis. It's not just your cars. It's what's in the cars, the tyres, the paint, the plastic work in the car. And that's just a car. It takes a few, good amount of barrel of oils to produce one car. It's in your toothpaste. It's in every single piece of plastic you use in your daily life. It's in the insecticides that spray our foods. It's in the packaging for our foods. It is in everything, and the whole human current way of life is just evolved around oil. The current skyrocketing human population is solely down to oil. There is no way on Earth with any other means of energy or anything that the human race could survive without oil. And that's kind of worrying, considering it's a finite resource. It's going to run out. We have already practically reached peak oil. If you don't know what peak oil is we have practically discovered every single ounce of oil in the ground, and now all we have is what we actually know is in the ground, and it's not as much as you think. The worst thing about it is the governments, the people running the countries of this planet, are just letting us carry on, thinking that life can go on happily the way it is. I know it's not a happy life for some people, but for the majority of people, it's quite a cushy life, all down to oil. And it seems that they are doing nothing really to stop our greed and our necessity for this dark crude oil product. So what exactly happens when this oil runs out? What happens to the human population at this time? Well, it's quite a terrifying, sad thought really, but the fact is that people are going to die, people are going to starve, you have no electricity coming to your house, the shipments of foods coming to the supermarket will end, because the delivery trucks need oil, the packaging for the food needs oil, and it's getting to the point where we are so dependent on this system of, we farm it, we send it to a packaging facility, it gets packaged, it gets put on truck, it gets shipped to your local supermarket, and you go and buy the product. What happens, any link in this chain that's broken means that the supermarket gets no food, no stock, and this is a bad thing, because we are so dependent on just going to the supermarket, buying our food and coming home and eating it. And the average household only has enough food in there for a couple of days. The average city, large city, say New York, has enough food in a whole city to last about 3 days if it was to completely stop. If the production and deliveries was to stop, the whole food system would last three or 4 days, and that's kind of worrying. All them people have 3 days to do something about the situation, which is currently not very good, unfortunately. And I'm kind of laughing here, but it's when you step back and look at the situation, it is really worrying. It really is. A lot of people are going to get severely affected by this when it actually runs out. Now, what kind of time frame could you expect to see this oil starting to run out and food shipments stop, every way of life stop. You know, how long is it going to be before the price of oil and the price of a litre of petrol stops you from taking your car to work, stops the food companies, the supermarkets being able to deliver food? It's already getting pretty high, and a lot of people are finding it difficult to keep up with their fuel bills. And, you know, if you can't go to work, if your work's 50 miles away and the only way to get there is by car, how the hell are you going to get to work if there's no public transport? And even a public transport would halt. How are the buses run without the petrol? It's getting quite the situation where only the few elite or the richer are going to be able to afford this fuel. So, and the average Joe just cannot afford a damn litre of oil. Petrol, sorry. It really does worry me, our dependency on this product, and the fact that it's a finite resource, and within the next 5 to 10 years something seriously is going to happen. You can already see the evidence. We are going to war with people who have oil. Iraq, for instance, I know this has been covered quite extensively, but the sole reason we went there was for the vast oil fields, and it's coming down to the fact the person with the oil is the person with the power, and the US, they know that for sure, and they have the resources to carry out these type of things. So all these soldiers and that are dying because of the fact that, you know, the country wants oil and it wants to keep its power and dominance over the entire world. Now you may think to yourself, it's no problem. By the time the oil runs out, we'll have a new product to replace it. You know, there'll be a substitute for oil, like a synthetic oil. And that's true. There is such thing as synthetic oil. There is even bio oil, which is kind of, you know, made from food products, an oil made from food. But then you have to start thinking, okay, if we're gonna irrigate the land for fuel consumption, where's the food going to be grown for the people? It's a paradigm that there's not enough land in the whole earth to do both. We cannot feed a population of over 7 billion and fuel a population of 7 billion with bio oil. It's not going to happen. Solar power and wind power is just not enough to replace. I think it's about 2% of the world's energy. Not even that is done by solar and wind. So it's just, and how's that going to even replace the fuel that needs to go in your combustion engine? There is no real product apart from bio oils or some kind of synthetic oil that could replace internal combustion engine. The technology for an internal combustion engine is pretty basic. Even in the latest cars, it boils down to the same thing. Your car creates a small explosion on pistons that make the engine go, and you know, you go forward. But there is such a thing as synthetic oil, but do we have access to it? No. Is it shelved somewhere in some deep dark warehouse ready for the elite to pounce on people and start charging ridiculous prices? Most likely. The fact that these big giant money grabbing oil companies really do have the power to buy out an inventor who's just discovered a new synthetic oil product, they can buy him out, they can offer him millions, and who's going to turn that down? A lifetime of assurances for the sake of you know, a synthetic oil product that you can't even really mass produce on yourself unless someone backs you, which the only people that can back you are these giant oil companies because they're the only ones with the resources to distribute the stuff. But yep, these big companies, the elites, the governments know that oil is what keeps the economy going, and if that was to crash, you know, there'd be some severe consequences. So they're holding on to this oil paradigm for as long as they can, trying to grasp this power as long as they can. They're shelving, they're buying out all these inventors that are making these replacement products, shelving the ideas, and you know, for a later date when they actually need them. And that's kind of worrying that these guys are shelving stuff that could really change how we live. Basically, a clean synthetic version of oil would be great. We wouldn't have to worry about pollution. It would be cheap because it's, you know, it's some kind of chemicalized water or something like that. I'm not too sure on what it's actually made of, but I've seen some documentaries of some guys making this in their garage, although not to the vast quantities that we need. You know, it's only very small quantities that they can produce it in, but the idea is there. It's been done, and it just needs the infrastructure to mass produce, but they're not doing it. They're keeping this from everyone, and it's really disgusting. The only way we're going to change this is if we change our dependency on oil, which I'm afraid is very difficult. It's in every aspect of your life. If you didn't want to touch any products of oil, you would be living in a garden shed, and even then the garden shed would rot because you couldn't use any Ronseal product to shield your shed from the weather, which, you know, is kind of ironic. So, you know, it's a very sad situation that the human race has found itself in, dependent on this really nasty crude oil stuff, and it's just driving poverty. It's driving the line between the rich and the poor. And soon it would be the factor in life and death, because as the more rare oil gets, the less chance of getting food, getting to work, paying your bills is going to get. And it's only getting harder. You ask anyone these days on the state of the economy and they'll say it's shit. They say their life is very difficult, they can just about get by. And then there are some people who fly by it because, you know, they take advantage of the economy system. These city traders are really the bane of people's lives by buying low and selling high, and they really do fuck up the economy and make everyone's living standards cost a hell of a lot more. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the fact of our dependency on oil at the moment, and maybe some ideas from you guys to show us some alternatives that we could maybe use, and some ideas that you've had, some information that you've had about the industry or our time frame, what's left with the product. You know, we need to know. They're not going to tell you that there's 5 years left. If they was to come out and say there's 5 years left of oil, after that we're pretty much fucked. The economy would go into a nosedive, the population would go into a panic. You know, how the fuck are you going to feed your kids when you can't even go to the supermarket? Are you going to grow your food in your back garden? Some people can, but when will food become the next thing that people take from you? Will they come to your garden during the night, take all your food? You know, then what happens? You'll be, sorry to say, but you'll be fucked. It's I really dread this day, but I know it's coming. I really, too deep down in my heart, I know it's coming, and unless someone intervenes, either from above, you know, I'm not talking God, I'm talking ET or something of this world, gives us a new technology soon, we're all going to feel the wrath of oil and lack of it, and it scares the hell out of me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and sub if you enjoyed the video or found it semi-informative. And don't forget to comment, because I love to hear your thoughts. This is Earth Truth signing out, and I'll catch you later, guys. Peace, love, fly safe.